The marriage counselor's office smelled like lavender and broken promises. "You need to reconnect with passion," Dr. Langley said, tapping her notebook. My husband Evan stared at the wall, his wedding band gleaming under fluorescent lights. That's when she suggested the list 3 fantasies we'd fulfill for each other. Evan's first request shocked me. Sleep with someone else. "Let me watch." Liam arrived at our penthouse wearing my husband's cologne. "You must be Amanda," he murmured, his knuckles brushing my bare shoulder. The resemblance was uncanny, same broad shoulders, same cocky smirk, but where Evan was ice, Liam was wildfire. I didn't realize until too late. This wasn't a random stranger. This was Evan's twin brother. "He doesn't know it's me," Liam whispered against my throat as Evan watched from the armchair, his breathing ragged. "He thinks I'm in Tokyo." The game changed that night. Evan left us alone. Liam stayed. Rain lashed the windows when Evan finally spoke. "I picked him because I knew you'd be safe." His hands trembled around the whiskey glass, but I didn't know I'd get jealous. Of my own blood. Now Liam texts me verses from Rilke at midnight. Evan buys me orchids, the flowers from our wedding, and I stand at the balcony each dawn, tracing the bite mark Liam left on my thigh. ... while wearing Evan's ring. The rain streaked the penthouse windows like liquid shadows as Liam traced the strap of my silk chemise with his teeth. "He's watching again," he murmured against my bare shoulder. Knowing Evan stood just beyond the bedroom's 2-way mirror, I could feel my husband's gaze like physical touch, the weight of it heavier than Liam's body pinning me to the sheets. Evan had orchestrated this every decadent detail from the champagne, chilling in silver buckets to the way his brother's hands mimicked his own wedding night movements. But somewhere between the third encounter and the stolen mornings when Liam would read me Baudelaire in the shower, the script had burned away. Now when Liam kissed me, it wasn't performance art for Evan's twisted marriage therapy, it was hunger. The kind that cracked my ribs open when I caught Evan's reflection in the mirror, his fingers pressed to the glass where my hips met Liam's. The next morning, I found Evan's journal left conspicuously on the breakfast bar. Pages open to yesterday's entry. She makes the same noise when he enters her as she did with me on our honeymoon. Does he notice? Does he care? That night, I slid into Liam's bed without pretense, letting him peel the emerald green nightgown, Evan's favorite, from my skin. "He thinks you're trying to replace him," Liam said as his mouth traveled south, the words vibrating against my inner thigh. "But we both know the truth." The truth tasted like salt and betrayal when I finally screamed Liam's name loud enough to shatter the mirrors. Evan didn't emerge from his study for 3 days. When he did, his cufflinks were mismatched, and he smelled of single malt and regret. He placed a velvet box between my coffee cup and the half-eaten croissant. Inside nestled twin platinum rings, one for me, one for Liam. "Choose," was all he said before walking away. The rings burned holes in my palm all afternoon while Liam watched from the terrace, shirtless and silent as a panther. At dusk, Evan's private jet departed for Zurich without him. The text came through as I stood between their matching penthouse suites, the rings leaving crescent moon indents in my clenched fist. "The only wrong choice is none at all." The elevator dinged. Liam's door clicked open. And for the first time in our twisted ballet, all the mirrors were covered. The city lights blurred outside the floor-to-ceiling windows as I stood between their matching penthouse suites, the weight of the rings burning my palm. Liam's door yawned open, revealing him silhouetted against the midnight skyline shirtless, holding 2 glasses of bourbon that caught the amber glow of downtown. "You're overthinking," he murmured, pressing one glass into my trembling hand. The ice cubes clinked like tiny warnings as I stepped across the threshold into air thick with sandalwood and reckless decisions. Evan's cologne lingered on my skin from our last disastrous therapy session, but here in Liam's space, everything smelled differently: dangerous whiskey, worn leather, and the faintest hint of chlorine from the rooftop pool where he'd first kissed me without an audience. The door clicked shut behind me with finality. Liam didn't move to touch me, just watched with those hunter's eyes as I traced the rim of my glass. "He bought these for us," I whispered, unfurling my fingers to reveal the twin bands glinting under recessed lighting. Liam's laugh was dark velvet. My brother always did have a flair for dramatic gestures. He plucked one ring from my palm, holding it up to catch the light. But this? His thumb brushed my lower lip. "This isn't about jewelry." The bourbon tasted like fire as I drained the glass. Somewhere in the building, Evan was probably watching the security feed. He'd had cameras installed in every corner after the first time he caught Liam whispering to me in the library. But tonight the lenses were mysteriously offline, their little red lights dark. Liam's fingers found the nape of my neck, working at the knot of my robe. "He thinks this is about possession," he breathed against my collarbone. The silk slithered to the floor. "But you and I?" His teeth grazed my earlobe. "We've always been about surrender." The bedroom smelled like salt and sign, the sheets still rumpled from yesterday's stolen hours. Liam didn't rush, taking his time to map every shiver as my back met cool cotton. Some women might have felt self-conscious under that relentless gaze, but the way his pupils dilated told me all I needed to know. When his mouth finally found mine, it wasn't the performative passion we'd manufactured for Evan's twisted spectatorship. It was something raw and unraveling, all teeth and shared breath and fingers tingling in hair. I barely registered the vibration at first, my phone lighting up on the nightstand, Evan's name flashing across the screen. Liam growled against my throat, palming the device and tossing it toward an armchair without breaking contact. He knew what he was signing up for, he muttered, nipping at my jaw. The text alert chimed again and again, until the barrage became impossible to ignore. Liam exhaled sharply through his nose before reaching for the damn thing. The glow illuminated his sharp features as he scanned the messages, his expression shifting from annoyance to something unreadable. "Well," he said after a loaded pause, turning the screen toward me. Evan's final message burned my retinas. "Check the safe. Combination is your anniversary? Then ask him about Madrid." The air left my lungs in a rush. Madrid, where Evan had supposedly sent Liam on business last month. Where Liam claimed he'd been when those mysterious charges appeared on our shared account. Where, according to the flight records now glaring from Evan's text thread, no plane had ever landed. Liam's grip on my hip tightened almost painfully as he registered my expression. "Amanda," he began, but I was already twisting away, the rings scattering across hardwood as I scrambled for my discarded robe. The safe. I needed to see what Evan left in the goddamn safe. Liam moved like lightning, pinning me against the bedroom door with his full weight. "Listen to me," he demanded, his breath hot against my temple. "Whatever he told you?" The gunshot from the living room made us both freeze. Not a gunshot, the front door being kicked in. Evan's voice echoed down the hall, colder than I'd ever heard it. "Found your missing passenger, brother." The sound of shattering glass ripped through the penthouse as Evan kicked over the champagne bucket, sending ice skittering across marble floors. His usually impeccable hair was disheveled, tied loose around his neck like a noose half-tied. In his left hand dangled a manila folder thick with documents, in his right, a sleek black USB drive I recognized instantly. The one from our wedding video. Liam's grip on my wrist tightened, but I wrenched free, the silk robe gaping open as I faced my husband. "What the hell is this?" My voice sounded foreign, ragged at the edges. Evan's smile was all teeth as he tossed the folder at my feet. Photos spilled out grainy surveillance shots of Liam at a Madrid airport. Exactly 1 week before he was supposedly in Tokyo. Boarding passes. Hotel receipts. And then the image that stopped my heart, A familiar emerald nightgown pulled on a bedroom floor that wasn't ours. You missed the best part, Evan said, clicking the USB into the wall-mounted monitor. The screen flickered to life, showing Liam in our bed, my bed, with a brunette whose laugh I'd recognize anywhere. Sarah, my college roommate, the one who'd conveniently visited last month while Evan was in Geneva. The timestamp glowed in the corner, 3 days before Liam first appeared at our door. Liam went preternaturally still beside me. Evan, did you really think I wouldn't vet my own twin? Evan's laugh was hollow as he advanced, the monitor now playing another clip, Sarah whispering to Liam, "Should never suspect your mind first." The bourbon turned to acid in my stomach. This wasn't just betrayal. This was orchestrated annihilation. I stumbled backward, knees hitting the edge of the sofa as the truth detonated between us. Liam had never been Evan's accomplice in this twisted game. He'd been Sarah's. The therapy, the staged encounters, all leading to this moment where I stood half naked and gutted between brothers, the cold metal of a wedding band still indented in my palm. Evan's phone buzzed. Once, twice. He didn't glance at it, just held my gaze with something terrifyingly close to pity. "Check the safe," he repeated softly. The walk to our bedroom felt like wading through tar. The safe's digital panel glowed under my trembling fingers, our anniversary date, the numbers I'd punched in 1,000 times before. The mechanism hissed open. Inside sat a single key and a note in Evan's precise handwriting. "The car downstairs will take you to the airport. The jet's fueled for Bali, no tracking, no questions. Or stay and become the prize in a war that started long before you." Footsteps echoed in the hallway, Liam's familiar cadence, but faster, harder. When I turned, he stood framed in the doorway, Sarah's lipstick still smudged on his collar from the video. His eyes dropped to the key in my hand, then back to my face. "Amanda," he said, extending his own hand, not pleading, not demanding, just waiting. Outside, dawn bled across the skyline in streaks of gold and violet. Somewhere beyond the glass, a city was waking up. Somewhere closer, 2 brothers held their breath. And in the space between one heartbeat and the next, I made my choice. The key bit into my palm as I stepped past Liam without a word, the silk robe fluttering behind me like a surrender flag. The penthouse elevator doors slid open with a hushed whisper, but Evan's voice stopped me cold. "You're forgetting something." He held out the USB between 2 fingers, that damned half-smile playing at his lips. "Take it. Consider it. A wedding present." The elevator descended in suffocating silence. 60 floors. 59, 58. Each number blinking like a countdown to a life I no longer recognized. The USB weighed nothing, yet it dragged my hand down as if filled with lead. When the doors parted in the lobby, a black town car idled at the curb, just as Evan promised. The driver didn't turn as I slid inside, but I caught his glance in the rearview mirror. Not pity, but recognition. How many women had he ferried away from the Moretti twins? How many carried similar scars beneath their designer clothes? The car hadn't moved 2 blocks when my burner phone vibrated. Liam's name flashed on the screen, followed by a single image. Evan's journal, open to an entry dated the week before our wedding. "She thinks this is about love. It's always been about the trust fund. Father's last joke on us both." My stomach lurched. The trust. The one Evan's father had stipulated would only release to whichever son married appropriately by 35. The one worth $87 million. Another text came through, not Liam this time. An unknown number. The attached video showed Sarah laughing as she shredded what looked like legal documents. "You really thought you were the first girl we ran this on?" Her voice dripped honey as she held up a familiar emerald nightgown identical to mine. "The only difference is you lasted longer than the others." The town car turned sharply toward the airport, but I suddenly couldn't remember why I'd chosen it. Bali meant running. Running meant they won. My fingers closed around the USB as the driver merged onto the freeway, the early morning sun glinting off the chrome. That's when I noticed the envelope tucked into the seat back pocket. Inside, a first-class ticket, not to Bali, but to Madrid. And scribbled in handwriting that matched Evan's journal, "The Ritz, room 712. Ask for Clara." The driver's eyes found mine again in the mirror. "Change of plans, ma'am?" I leaned forward, the USB's sharp edge pressing into my palm. "Actually, yes." The exit for downtown loomed ahead. "Take me back." His knuckles whitened on the wheel. "Back to." The pieces clicked together with sudden, terrifying clarity. Clara Evans' mysterious business associate in Madrid. The hotel charges that didn't match Liam's travel. The way Evan had looked at me when he handed over the spit not anger, but anticipation. I met the driver's gaze steadily. "Take me to the Ritz." As the car changed lanes, I typed out 2 messages. The first to Liam, "Meet me at our place, 1 hour." The second to Evan's burner, the number he thought I didn't know. "She's in room 712. I know what happened in Madrid." The phone rang 30 seconds later. Evan's voice came through tight with something I'd never heard before, not anger, but fear. "Amanda, don't." I hung up and powered off the phone, watching the city skyline rise anew through tinted windows. Somewhere in that maze of steel and glass, 2 brothers were scrambling. Somewhere in room 712, a woman named Clara held answers. And for the first time since this twisted game began, I finally understood the rules. The town car's tires hummed against pavement as we sped toward the Ritz, toward the truth, toward whatever came next. Behind us, the sun climbed higher, burning away the last traces of dawn. The Ritz suite smelled like jasmine and betrayal. Clara turned from the window when I entered, her crimson nails tapping against a champagne flute. She looked exactly like Evan's type, elegant, calculated, with eyes that had seen too much. "Took you long enough," she murmured, sliding a dossier across the table. Inside were photos of Sarah, not with Liam, but with Evan, hotel receipts, bank transfers. A contract dated 6 months before our wedding, stipulating payment upon successful dissolution of marriage. "You were never the mark, darling," Clara said, lighting a cigarette. "You were the weapon." The pieces snapped together with brutal clarity. Evan had hired Sarah to seduce Liam. Liam had played along, making sure I caught them. Also, I'd run triggering the infidelity clause in our prenup, voiding my claim to the trust fund. But Evan hadn't counted on one thing. I opened my clutch and tossed the USB onto the table. "You mean this weapon?" Clara's smirk faltered when I powered on the suite's TV, revealing footage of Evan signing those same documents with his father's forged signature. A felony. The door burst open. Liam stood framed in the threshold, his usually perfect hair disheveled, eyes wild. "Amanda." I didn't let him finish. "The trust releases in 3 days," I said, stepping past him toward the elevators. "Transfer half to my offshore account, or this goes to the SEG Interpol and your mother's book club." Liam's laugh chased me down the hall, equal parts fury and admiration. 3 months later, the villa in Sardinia has no mirrors, no surveillance ... no men whispering half-truths through silk sheets. Just sun-soaked terraces and a bank account fat enough to erase memories. The envelope arrives at dawn. Inside, a single photo. Evan and Liam at a courthouse, their once perfect smiles strained. The trust fund had released, but the legal fees from the forgery case had gutted it. Beneath the image, 2 words in elegant script: "Well played." I burn it in the ashtray. The ashes smell like lavender. And broken promises.